bless the families that have lost loved ones, and I think a couple of them are from our community. We'd like to thank all of you for, I know that you're all busy, and I know that you're here because you're interested in what's going to be talked about tonight. We are going to do some introductions. We'd like to thank first the people with the lays. I said, hey, I asked my niece, can you go and give lays to this person, that person, this person? And one of them said, well, is it because we're targets? And I said, no, you're going to be honored tonight. And that is the truth. You know, your coming to our meeting is an honor. We are thankful that you are willing to be here. We're not here to point finger. We are here to find remedy for some of the concerns that has been a concern with our community and our island for a very long time. And I would like to first acknowledge our Kca Association President, Mr. Patrick Kahawaiola'a. Please give a hand. I'm thankful that he's here. We would like to also thank Uncle Louis Ha'o. Did you have a lay? Can we have a lay? I think it's outside on our table for Uncle Louis. I'm sorry, you passed me without, being a target. No. Okay, so we'd like to thank Uncle Louis Ha'o, who is representing the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. Please give a hand to Uncle Louis Ha'o. Thank you. Mayor Kim, at the very last minute, and when he called me to ask where our meeting was, I said, oh, great, then you can help me co-facilitate. And he was so willing to do that, and I really appreciate his willingness to come here and co-facilitate with me. And give a hand to our Mayor, Kim. Yes, thank you. Welcome, Department of Environmental Manager, County, Mr. William Kucharski. Give him a hand. And who has been willing to come to our community and work with us on some of the questions we've had for quite some time. We'd like to welcome Neil Mukai, who's also from the Department of Health. Raise your hand. You don't need to be scared. Okay. We appreciate him. He's been to our meetings. We love you for even helping us. I think you were the one responsible for having vector control go and take a look at our rat problems before our campers were actually camping. We thank you for that. We'd like to welcome Mr. Aaron Ueno, who I heard was a classmate of a lot of my family. Football, Hilo High School, yay! Okay, he's with the Department of Health here on this island, and we'll be answering and representing the Department of Health for some of the questions that we have previously sent out to our dignitaries, so that they could be prepared for some of the questions and not be springed, and got to think about it. So I'm sure you had some time to think about what these questions are. We'd like to also, hands please. Thank you. We'd also like to thank Gerald Kosaki, Chief Battalion Fire Chief, who has also been to our meetings, several of our meetings. Please give him a hand. Raise your hand. Thank you very much. We'd like to also welcome John Peard, who is with the Department of Health Hazard Evaluation and Emergency Response. Raise your hand. Who has also been to our meetings as well. We really appreciate you. Acknowledge that they're part of what we call the LEPC. And I keep forgetting what the acronym is, and one of you will come up and maybe the mayor can, explain what it is, but it is a consortium of county emergency response committee, which I was invited to as well. And so I appreciate that invite, to that committee. Sue Liloy, our councilwoman, Sue Liloy, hands. Thank you very much. David Corrigan in the back. I know he doesn't like to be acknowledged, but we all know that you're there. David, and Occupy Hilo, Donald Wessel. it's great that they give us the opportunity to videotape these meetings, and it's not because we want to make sure that people, hear what they say. Some of the members of our community, some people that cannot travel far, like a meeting like this, it's important that we have it videotaped so that you can understand and educate yourself. And hopefully, as we go along with our meeting tonight, it's tasteful. We want answers and remedy. We're not here to point fingers and blame anyone for our position. However, I think they all know what we're going to be talking about. Can someone hand me the list of? So give everybody a hand for being here. Did I miss anybody? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. We'd like to welcome our director for civil defense. Oh, holy moly. How could I forget that? The handsome bugger over there. And he also knows a lot of my family members at Hilo High School playing football. I remember that. And I think they were all under Harry Kim's watch too, playing football. But thank you for coming, our new director. I would like to maybe, Mayor Kim will give some time for you to introduce yourselves, what you're doing, and I'm going to give you a lot of time. I would like to do, I'm going to go over some of the questions. I'm hoping that everybody grabbed a handout. My children were in the front. Thank you for my children, Kai, Ka'anela, and my niece, Keisha, for helping me set up. And I told them to stay, but what I can't say. Watch the video. Okay, so these are some of the questions. Let me explain Keaukaha Action Network. About 4.5 years ago, in our community meeting, I had asked Uncle Patrick Kahawaiala'a and our community to see if we could organize or take part on some of the issues that were important to me at that time. And it is dealing with the toxic facilities that have encroached our community. And I've identified a lot of the toxic release inventory companies that border our Hawaiian Homes residents, and thus was born Keaukaha Action Network. And we had separated our meetings not on the association nights because they have a very full agenda and presentations, and some of the issues that we're discussing take strategy, and we meet separately on the third Thursday of every month after our association meeting. And we welcome families from Keaukaha, Panaeva, and other community members to attend our meeting because it discusses the health and safety of our community. So that's Keaukaha Action Network. We're happy that you're all here participating in some of these concerns. So on this pamphlet, I've shown you, this is only one concern. The sewage issue is only one concern of our community. And I'm sure you've heard of the others, the concern of the fumes, the sound of the airport, the gas storage companies that have their storage tanks very close and near to our residents, the sewage plant that's in the front. We have other issues with the harbor and Elko on the opposite side of our Hawaiian homelands, landfill. These are all of the issues that we're concerned for our Keaukaha Action Network. And so we have organized in about 4.5 years now. So tonight we're discussing sewage. We're honing in on that tonight. And we're so grateful that you're here to address these. So I'm going to go over these questions. Community members, if you have any other questions that you want to add to this list, we're going to give you some time after everyone's got the chance to speak to ask questions after we give the presentation. So after I'm done, we're going to move on to Mr. William Kucharski from the Department of Environmental Management, who is going to give us an update on the repairs of the sewage pipes and the cracks and leaks that we have identified and that they're repairing. Am I correct? So we did not want to just keep saying the pipes are cracked, can you, you know, what are you guys going to do about it? So what we did was we gathered information, and that was public information available for every resident, every person in the public to have if they were looking for it. So what I did was I met with several of our dignitaries here and department heads asking questions about monitoring and the concern. And why we did that was because we have had multiple reports from our community members of sicknesses. One, their concerns after swimming in our shoreline. We've had several members of our community alone that have reported their children having staph, MRSA, some reporting leptospirosis, and fevers. So we wanted to find the source of what's going on with this issue. So collected, in order for us to actually find out what's going on, we had to educate ourselves. So what we did was we familiarized ourselves with monitor readings and had county. We had to find out first who does the monitor readings. We found out that county does some monitor readings. We also found out that the Department of Health does monitor readings. Now, exactly what are they looking for? We had to find out what are they testing when they say that wastewater treatment or department has to stay within a standard. So all of these things we had to educate ourselves for. And let me tell you how much we've become very educated with the monitor readings. And that's the reason why we have the Department of Health here, Civil Defense, Mr. Kosaki, Department of Environmental Manager, and our mayor. So I'm going to go over this. We found out that the process for testing to make sure that the sewage outfall is within EPA standards. There are regulatory agencies that make sure that these facilities stay within the standards because they are emitting toxins that might be harmful. And so they're considered a toxic release inventory company. And majority of them are required to report their emissions in parts per billion to the Environmental Protection Agency. And along with the Department of Health, they are to also regulate how they emit. And if there are any chemicals that are being used that are hazardous, they are to report that also to the Department of Health. And we have also a team that require the amounts that are being emitted. So we find out that in the process of this, we wanted to know what's going on. Who do we ask? Because people are getting sick. And we found out that the county wastewater, and if I'm wrong, correct me, but county wastewater department is managed by the Department of Environmental Management under the county. They are the ones that are running all our sewage plants and pumps here. So if you look at the packets that you have in your hand, I have a map that came off of their website, and also what was given to me by Mr. Kucharski is a map of where all of our pump stations and our outfalls may be. Papaiko, Pepe'ekeo, Keaukaha. We also have some on the opposite side, on the west side. Now these are all online for you to receive, to educate yourselves. There's another sheet that shows you the pipes that are under us. So in the early 70s, the wastewater treatment sewage plant was put in the front of our homes. We all got to know we didn't want it here, but it was here. It's here anyway. So we have been questioning the cumulative impacts that we have had to endure all of these years, and the faulty pipes and the leaky pipes that we have because of corrosion and its age. And second was county responsibility, responsible for testing near the outfall regularly. That was what I was told by our county Department of Environmental Management. He's going to go over that. And then the Department of Health and EPA are the regulatory agencies making sure that their monitor readings are within the threshold. Threshold. EPA has standards that these toxic facilities have to stay within. I know this is boring to some of you, but this is important. Threshold, what does that mean? Each agency or each facility has to stay within a certain threshold, and if they deviate from that number, they have to fix something, because any more than that, and each facility has a threshold that they need to meet. Okay, so the fourth, county reports to the Department of Health. We didn't know where their readings go. So we asked Neil Mukai, who was gracious enough to attend our Keaukaha Action Network meeting. And we asked him, okay, who does the reading for the outfall and where does it go? And we found out that they report to the Department of Health on Oahu. We also know that Neil Mukai is the only one that reads for the Department of Health here on this island. I think they used to have somebody on this side, but he retired, and now we have no one reading, monitor readings to help Neil to keep for this side, for the east side. So that is a question that we had for the Department of Health. Why don't we have somebody on this side to read all of our sewage issues here? So that was one of the questions. Okay, we're going to go to the questions. Why are you only reading near the outfall and not other places near it? Okay, and that's a DOH question. Why are readings for the Puhi Bay not done regularly? That's for DOH. I can continue down, but I think you all can read yourself. I want to give some time to the Department of Environmental Manager. Why he's here tonight with his presentation is because they're finally, this administration fixing the leaky pipes that have been leaking for decades in front of Puhi Bay. Give him a clap. I'm serious. I really appreciate Mayor Kim. I really appreciate the Department of Environmental Manager who has been working with our community so that we can understand what the heck is going on. And so he's going to be giving a presentation today. And we're going to start with that. Daryl's going to turn off our lights. And then take a look at these questions. And then I'm going to turn the time over to our mayor, who can introduce his cabinet members here and his directors. And if he would like to introduce what they do, I think he has a lot of time for that. But if you have questions, community, that are not on this list, this is a time to ask. And please, we're not here. We want remedy. We want to be, and at the bottom, I had to put this. Our community does not want this outfall in Puhi Bay. And I know that there are alternatives. And if you are thinking of better alternatives, can it not be pushing out in our ocean? We'd like to have our oceans heal. And if that's, that's our request. And I don't think it's, wrong for us to ask that. And I'm going to tell you why. My father is a subsistence gatherer, and he and my grandfather has been fishing these shorelines for a long time. He taught my brothers and sisters and I how to fish. He was a fisherman, and so were they. We ate from this shoreline. And I can tell you that it is not the same. It is not the same. And if there's a way that we can have our waters heal so that we and our culture can continue to be who we are, to be able to feed our families from the ocean, and to be able to wash part of our culture. If we are sick in Ma'i, we go to the ocean to heal. That is part of our culture. Hi'uvai means to purify, to cleanse, and to clean. We can no longer do that. And that is really sad. And that's why I appreciate every one of you here tonight, because it is important to us that we find remedy for our children and their children and their children's children. We beg you to allow us this time to speak and find remedy. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. What I want to do today, I'm Bill Kca of Department of Environmental Management, responsible for all of the sewage plants that we have on the island, and also solid waste. The landfill is also mine. What I want to do tonight is just give you an update at what has occurred as far as fixing both the shore side discharge pipes, outfall, and also the in-water corrections and repairs that have been made. We had two separate contracts. One was the land side, the other was the water side. On the land side, we had 14 pipe joints. Pipes come together, there's a joint, and so we've had 14 of these joints faded and sealed from the inside, or depending on how serious that was. There were 14 of them. It's a little bit more than $500,000 to fix those. We just finished just before the camping season started. Everything was moved out, and I'll talk about what happened after that. On the water side, we had two joints that were cracked and were having releases, and they've been repaired. And my typing skills, that ditty in there. There were stainless steel collars that were put around separations on the joint. This was about 4,000 feet out, which is 3/4 of a mile, and about 50 feet of water. And we had areas where the wave action coming in was undercutting the discharge pipe. Pipe had the same pulled out by the water, and the pipe would sag, and that's when you get cracks. And so we had to repair those. We have about 40 feet of cement fill blankets. I'll show you some pictures. They were 2 to 3 deep on these blankets. Plastic pillowcase that long that was put down, and then cement was pumped down into that and filled them up down. And before we could do that, we had all the coral that we had to move, and we had to get this finished because the coral breeding season is from June, July, August. That's when they on, and so they didn't want any work to be done during that time period. Water side was about $1.5 million for that. This is a picture of the pipe. You can see these are the cement-filled containers that we put in, and there's a rock, and you can see there's some coral on there. Any coral that we had in the area of our work was removed, relocated, and re-cemented. So we didn't, goal was not to damage any of the coral. So that was a part of the contract. If you know anything about diving, if you're more than 30 feet down, you cannot just rise to the top. You have to wait for a while. So it was just past the cusp of a diver being able to go down and come. So that took quite a while. We had some other issues with the contractor, but it all worked pretty well in the end. Again, you can see these are going to get boring as we look at them, but you can see, and again, the reason for that was that now when the wave comes in, and we get good wave action in there, as you know, in the winter, and not only on the surface, but water is moving below. All to save that pipe and the discharge pipe so that it would not be damaged during the normal winter seasons. You can see this. is one of the repair areas, one of the joints, and it's all stainless steel collars that are put around the joints, or if there was an area that there was a problem with the pipe, that discharge pipe, these collars were put on to prevent any releases. Again, as I said, this was probably going to get a little boring, but you can see in here the different levels. So there were 2 to 3 of these cushion cement filled that were in there, and these are also rods are driven down into the seabed, so these don't move. You've all been in the water. You all know how powerful waves are. Even down here, this is moving really, really large rocks. I would call them boulders, but the water will move almost anything. And so these had to be very carefully put together. It's a 4-foot diameter. These cushions went 40 feet along the length of these pipes. You can see in here, these were the collars, stainless steel collars that were put in that had to go around the pipe, and then they were sealed inside. There's grout and cement that was put inside there to ensure that there was coming out of that after the repair. That's sort of a better site, and the fish seem to like it. Now, on the land side, I told you we fixed 14 different joints that were leaking. Contractor left, did a last dye test. Lo and behold, we were getting, right as we came up and just as it comes into the water, got a little bit of green dye, which meant that there was a release somewhere. And we have been struggling trying to think of where that could be coming from. And it's very small, but it's still there. So what we're looking at, we have manholes where our discharge lines come in, and in there, pipes come in that pipe. We believe that we're probably getting a little bit of a leak on some of those seals. The material is on the mainland that would be used to fix that. It's expected to be in this next week. We're going to go in and do repairs, and we're going to seal these, whether they're leaking or not. They're going to be resealed, and then we're going to run individual dye tests so we'll know if what we've done has worked out. Also in here, you get tidal action. As you know, the tide comes in. When it comes up on the water, it's also on the ground. So we have a valve in there that out but not let water. Check valve, and that is going to be replaced. That valve is also going to. But those are the things that we've done. We have the signs up. Our monitoring shows no levels of contamination that exceed any of our discharge standards, but we still had signs up there until we get this repairs completed. That should be done. Once we get the material, it'll take us about a week to get those repairs done. But that was the issue, and that was the problem with the release. Again, we found nothing on this side of the bay, just on the outcrop, and that little inlet is at the release. And what we think is that following the pipe, where the pipe is, that the dye went on the outside of the pipe up to the point. So we'll find where the source is, fix that, re-dye test. That is the status as of now. We have those 3 manholes that we're going to be looking at, and that's what we've done. And just to let you know, that's the work that we've accomplished.
Would we have some time to ask Mr. Kucharski some of the questions that, Patrick, do you have some questions for him?
I just have one. I think So on the Kona side, we've had several incidents in the last few weeks of raw sewage flowing into the ocean, and we have a lot of there. So now that I'm looking at the way this is set, all of the developments that happen for on Kca 700 houses there, is all of that piped into the ocean?
Not now. Again, it depends where you are. We don't have all that much of the island.
Okay.
So we have here, and Hilo is about 5.3 million gallons a day. In Kca, it's about 5 million gallons. That's the overall capacity. Nowhere near. What we find is that the cost of the sewer line generally cost of the here in have to go down in lava wherever you are on the island. We have a lot of wherever you down 5 lava out. That's expensive. But Keaukaha, we have a different kind of treatment. Not have an outfit. That is going to be. We have looked here, and over there, one of the R1 water, not drinking, but washing and bathing. We use what's called an engineered wetland. We talked about it. The problem we have in Hilo that it gets how much 100 inches, whatever that is. Wetlands is just not going to work. So we are looking at examining ways that we can polish the waters that are being discharged, get to a point where we don't have to, no one will be happier than we are. We're trying. We're thinking about it. That everything goes to the treatment system and the treatment system comes out. What you don't see on the map is any systems in which that are not connected to the system. So any place that you do not have a sewer connection, you're using a cesspool, for example, or within a mile of the beach, you're going to have everything eventually makes its way, water flows downhill, and the ocean is downhill, everywhere.
As opposed to maybe the sewer treatment plant getting smaller, it has to expand. And my reason for the expansion is because there's an ordinance now that is going to, or will shortly become an ordinance, that anybody mentioned just to close, anybody has power that they don't close the sewer cesspool between 200 feet from the ocean. That's my understanding. But whatever the length or the distance, it'll just mean that you will now have to either, more of the people either have to go to leach fields, and or if you're in close proximity to the sewer, is to then attack.
Yes, sir. Except that you were
to the point of that somebody's going to get smaller, somebody's going to get bigger. And that's based on
what you said was almost correct. It's not what the state just passed was that any cesspool, regardless of where it is, has to be closed.
That's a stutter. That tells me as the keeper of wastewater for this county, that's going to happen. It's going to happen on a wall, it's going to happen on Molokai, it's going to happen every place, and it's just going to happen. Sewer has nothing.
And you need soil columns. We don't have many. Yes, ma'am.
How before we knew about it. And they brought some little, instead of bringing, after they found out about it, instead of bringing some of these warnings, bigger warnings, they were little small warnings like this, that they placed alongside of the ocean. But, what could happen to our children if there is no control? And especially during the summertime when everybody's out there camping.
We do our very best to make sure whatever we do in the standards that are set for us, exceed them. Sometimes we fail. Sometimes we have a pipe that will fail. That's what happened in this last week. Pipes that were old, they were 50, 60 tuna pipe, just gave up. I can't think of a worse time on any kind of scale to have that kind of leak than celebrating Kamehameha Day. I don't know about you, but I just shook my head. That's just not right in any. So something that we're looking at that. We need to repair some of our systems. We have old systems. Our infrastructure has been placed second for many years. Just every once in a while, it really rises up and focus. I think that's what's going to happen and what.
I'm gonna have Mayor Kim come with Mr. Kucharski, if you don't mind. It's devastating for us to know now that Keaukaha community has had to carry the burden of the whole entire island. And majority of the pumps that take sewage into the ocean is right next to each other. Apaipo, Pepe'ekeo, and Keaukaha. We have no chance if there's any leaks on partially treated sewage for decades that has harmed our waters. So it's devastating. And when spills are there, we're wondering if by chance it will be a disaster. Mayor Kim, I'm going to give it to you now.
First of all, as Bill was talking here, I think some of you may know how difficult it is to find a very qualified person in this kind of job. In fact, one of the public criticisms were of the requirements, just trying to find somebody that meets the minimum requirements. And somebody told me about this old Howley in Waimea, not Waimea, Waikoloa. And I looked at his resume, and the resume was very, very impressive. More than I even dreamt that we could find somebody to do this kind of job. But then I saw his age, and I said, God, he's old. Then the guy I was talking to said, what are you talking about? You older, which is true. But I don't think anyone from the outside coming in, because a lot of his experience were for foreign countries also. What he just mentioned, if you can just hear what he said about the responsibilities of the landfills here and Kona, and one of the first things he find out is you got to close the Hilo landfill, much less what is happening that he doesn't even account for. This is what we pledge to all of the people that I'm so gracious to say they'll work with us. And he has to rent a place in Hilo because his wife lives up in Waikoloa. We pledge this. Even when just the budget, I promise you that the people that work with us, understand the meaning of that pledge. And just as this meeting started with Aaron, he asked me a question in regards to the wetland. And we have only one mission to work together, and I think Aaron will agree, and the people from the state. When we work together, there is no state government or county government. I truly feel that we work as just people trying to address a problem. Now, I'll put everything on the table, and Bill can interrupt me anytime he wants to on this problem here. There's no defense to say of things where there's a sewage line runs through. You have a picture, you can see where it runs through. Bill just stated in regards to where all the sewage goes through and then where the sewage goes out. Those of you who are near my age, like the house, his wife, God, I was telling this guy, you know, watching these young kids play basketball, you were one of the best. I passed math, as she said, because I copied her. We're high school buddies. Of Talmadge, I coached him football. I can't believe I'm that old and he's that old. But we adopted a system here that before the meeting this afternoon, Bill was talking to me about what is happening and what needs to be fixed. It's going to cost tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars of fixing a system that is at least 50 years old. He showed me pictures of, explanation of the system broken in Kailua. My goodness, it's a horrible situation of the crack started on the bottom. This is cast iron. So you can imagine the condition of all these pipes. After his explanation to me, it was a simple thing of priorities, and that's why I'm telling you this, because I'm going to need your help in regards to our priorities. Without doubt in my mind, in regards to borrowing money for the future, because that's where you get the money to do this kind of repairs, because ideal goal is to have all sewage in level 1. Level 1 on the water is clean enough for irrigation. And we're not there, but that's a goal we should always strive for, outside of making good use of the water to minimize what goes out. So this afternoon, calling the finance department, with just the input from my left and right hand in regards to those things of solid waste and wastewater, that we have to put this as number 1 priority. So any large sums of money we're going to borrow has to be related to this. Obviously, there are going to be complaints in regards to other priorities, and I accept that. But I think if we don't have a system in regards to sewage that is the best we can afford, what good is a nice park? Even what good are nice roads or anything if you are polluted? Now, the passionate of life before, I know what we're talking about. Talmadge and I were just reminiscing of my time of how we used to go pick opihi. As the fire personnel said in regards to someone died from picking opihi, I think we remember the old days where you can just sit on a boulder and pick opihi and not worry about anything, because you sit in water level, not hanging on a rope in a cliff. All of us old timers know what it was like, and I think you know what I'm saying when we get angry, we fantasize and we dream of past, and we wish some of it was back. Some of you are my age, and I was explaining at the Wailoa opening of the dedication of the visitor center there to explain people the preciousness of the Wailoa Pond. And for those of you who can remember, the Flint Coat Company pouring out all their Pila water right into that beautiful Wailoa Pond. We will do what we can. There is no defense of some of the things. When the county government opened up the sewage plant right across the street, explaining to the mayors, I remember past, that the average H2S level was 3 to 8 parts per billion. And when you look on paper, wow, it's nothing. Trying to explain to people who don't live here, try to go smell H2S on 3 to 5 parts per billion when you live there. It's like somebody just made gas and you sit next to them and they just ate kimchi. There's no excuse for those things, and I'm not going to stand here and defend it. All I'm going to tell you is I think we are aware of it. I'm proud of the people we work with, the people that have agreed, like Bill, to take on this very difficult job. I'm proud of our relationship with the Department of Health and their commitment to do the same. We just went through a budgetary process. And you know, because the amount we had to raise was not a pleasant one. We're going to have to borrow money for what Bill will identify as high priority things in regards to fixing the system. All of this is not good news to you, except I ask you to please accept the fact that you won't hear us try to defend something, but we will try to explain. When we go to the council for support, I think they know that. We will just explain why these are priorities. And to you for the first time publicly, as Bill knows, this is the highest of priorities. And we will address it as openly as you would want us to, and come to the community and explain to you what is going to be done. In regards to in closing, Talmadge and I have had so many meetings in the past 3-4 months. Almost every morning, that's where we start our day. Over there, because I have to go from there to my regular day job, and they come to work early for that. He knows of 2 words: information dissemination. He knows that we have to get better in regards to communicating with the public or anyone involved in regards to what is happening. Know that, we know that, and we know that we will get better. And I hate to make an excuse of running away, but I promised my wife I'll try to be home before 7. So I've been out every night, and tomorrow I got to go up to Honolulu and stay over. I hate that. I know it sounds glorious, but I don't like traveling. But the people that are going to be here to answer your questions, they know they're here to explain. They're not here to defend anything because there's nothing to defend. So thank you for doing this. And
Say something. Could you get help from OHA?
OHA?
Yeah. Office of Hawaiian Affairs. After all, these are, in the Hawaiian Homes area. You might be able to get some help there.
I'm going to go see OHA. Not because of what you said on June 29th. And I'll say Pat said that, okay? I don't think I can answer that in total. Her question, if you didn't hear it, is can we get financial help when it comes from OHA? OHA, as you know, struggles with financial too, and part of the reason is they haven't been receiving their fair share. But the county government is responsible for the system. If there's anything from OHA that I would personally ask for help, is that when we impose laws, because of EPA imposes, Department of Health has to enforce it, and we have to follow it. And it causes residents money in regards to connection or other things. Those are the things I would feel very free to go ahead and ask OHA for help, but not for the main system itself. I think that's our responsibility. Thank you very much.
I've been meeting with Gerald Kosaki and first responders in regards to emergency response issues, and Sue Liloy and Darren Fiona. and a lot of the concerns that we have stems on the amount of money we have to make a difference. And I know that Sue has come to our meetings several times. So I came up with an idea. And this idea I brought to the LEPC meeting, and also to Sue Lee Loy, and that was to at least get on the agenda to speak to our county council, which I've not been able to get to until after budget. I did bring it up to Gerald Kosaki, and and this is regarding, and somebody told me I was crazy. And you know what? If it takes that to ask these questions so that we can find remedy, I don't care. I'm going to ask them. So this is an idea. We wanted to propose an idea with emergency response. Some of the issues that concerns on emergency response is that a lot of these toxic release inventory companies are within the tsunami zone. And only walking distance across the street from our closest residents of Hawaiian homes. We have said many times that, we're wondering why all of these toxic facilities are around and on Hawaiian homelands. So one of the things that we were worried about were how the close proximity of these gas storage companies, as well as the pipes of sewage, because they're on the coastline. One of the concerns that we've had in several of our meetings were first responders. They're the first ones there. And civil defense, our police officers, our fire department, hazmat here. We were going to propose, I think this is the best time to ask. He's here. We were going to propose, and the support of LEPC and our fire and first responders, to see if we can help give an idea as to how we can get this funding to help emergency response. We'll start with that first. To bring responsibility upon the toxic release inventory companies that are emitting toxins. Now, when I say they're emitting toxins and they produce pollution that are harmful if they go over the thresholds, right? And our concerns are, where are the checks and balances on these standards and thresholds? Because they're monitored, they get sent off to the North Pole. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we don't know where they get sent to, and if they in fact check, and on your sheets we have a list of the readings that they read. They read for 2 bacteria, Enterococci and Clostridium. And these are fecal bacteria. And there's a threshold of 130 for Enterococci, and there's a threshold for Clostridium, which is 50. I found that out just from doing my research. But who does the checks and balances when there's a spike? And that we cannot accept the fact that it's a storm, because maybe there aren't a storm. But we're wondering that. So that is a question. But what I'm getting to is that these toxic release inventory companies should be held accountable for mishaps that might come, hazards that might come. Say, for instance, BEI. I'm sorry, BEI. I'm using you as an example. If there was a leak at our gas storage companies, the first responders are there. And my question to our LEPC was, are you well equipped to be able to assess these issues? And I was told not necessarily, because they don't have the equipment to assess chemical leaks, hazmat issues. And so what we were recommending was that something very similar to the geothermal asset fund that was done legislatively for all geothermal companies, right? They were to put some funding into the asset fund for relocation, I think, and maybe emergency response. PGV is the only company that is required to do that. I know that companies that are emitting around us have to report to EPA, and they also pay fees to LEPC, but they also have to, I don't know what other fees they have to, but we wanted to see if we could create an asset fund to have all the toxic release inventory companies participate in putting that in, because, and it shouldn't come out, we're saying, it shouldn't come out of our taxpayers' dollars. That we hold responsibility to the toxic release inventory companies, and to fund so that we can have our fire department able to have the equipment. We were told that it's $1,000 to $3,000 for one suit, and and that they have only X amount of dollars to buy several. And that to me is a problem if in case there's a disaster, if our men are not able to assess taking care of the families, especially the families of Keaukaha and Panaeva, because we are surrounded by these toxic facilities, our families. And if I don't think it's wrong for us to ask this, and so respond.
I was trying to figure what the question was.
After the spill, they sent out chemicals. Now, which is worse, the spill or the chemical? We need to address that, to get rid of the spill, you know what I mean? Which is worse? We don't really know what kind of chemicals are they sending out.
On the Community Right to Know Act, these are federal laws that are passed to try to address those things in regards to requirement that anyone using certain kind of chemicals need to report it. And I think that was a good law, but I'll tell you how we are playing catch up, all of us, including the private companies. That was passed when I was working civil defense. And I'm old, but I'm not that old. In regards to your question of which is worse, the release or contamination, they to me one and the same. Some release will be toxic by aerial, and some will be ground, and some water. It just depends what you're dealing with. On cleanup, this is where I think maybe it's better, as the private company are responsible in entirety to fund the bill of cleanup. In regards to the question of should these companies pay the emergency response of the local, that's another question. And I think for some part they do indirectly. On that question, my son is a captain in hazmat, and we talk about that. I'll give you an example of, we have PGV that she's talking about example. That was in regards to conditions for the permitting. But fire department, we had an incident there of a release. And fire department made a very clear policy with PGV. I think it's still in effect. When you call a fire department for response, medical response, they will respond up to their perimeter lines. It is your responsibility because you are trained. You have the specialized equipment of, the total scapulation from the hazmat to bring the victim out to safety outside where the medics are waiting because they don't have that kind of equipment. I assume that's still in effect. Chief, yeah. And you notice these things as we go, because prior to that incident, the release, that was not the case. There's so many things we are learning to try to get better to do the job. What is the job? The protection of the community, not the protection of the responders. Obviously, that's part of it, but the job is to protect the community. But before I forget, because of community involvement like this, and I guarantee you it's a welcome to come here and talk and relate and explain, because we got to work together on it. That's what we're here for. The Panaeva and Keaukaha had an incident in regards to the location of the composting site. And that has been resolved. I think you should know that the man on my left there is the one responsible for it, because when I got the Panaeva community concern, I told them I have to read the contract. before I can say anything. So he is called after I do a fast, ballpark reading, and he took a couple of weeks, and I think he needed more time because it's a page-by-page review in regards to where I said it's a bad contract. And it's because of his review in regards to the location of things, et cetera, payment, et cetera. So it will not go there. It will be removed to some place that is safe from people, et cetera, and we need to thank Bill for that because he's the one that gave me the information. In regards to this, I hate to run, but we got good people here that will answer your questions, and we'll follow up on anything that we can't answer tonight, and I guarantee you that. So thank you very much. Get the memo because you went to Honolulu and on the phone you basically said I will be there, so thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kim. Thank you very much. At least the dialogue is here. I need two questions. One of the questions we had, first of all, I wanted to have Talmadge come introduce himself to our community. I don't know if all of you know Talmadge, but just kind of give a brief hand. Talmadge, because here you go.
Hello, Talmadge Magno. I've been here pretty much all my life. Grew up in Mountain View. Had a previous career with the National Park Service, 30 years as a ranger doing law enforcement and emergency services. So just came into this position 5 months ago. Like Harry said, he's been working with civil defense staff when he first came on every day, and ever since I came on in January, he's been meeting with us every day. He was 24 years in the directorship for civil defense, so I use him as a mentor. Man's got great knowledge as far as emergency response. Real uncanny at the stuff that he picks up. Every day, the small stuff we've been dealing with, we think we get it down, but just the stuff the instincts he's got for emergency response and just any kind of disaster is pretty incredible. So I use his knowledge. Hope he sticks around for more than the next 3.5 years. Anyway, so as I came into the county government, we've been trying to build what we call resilient communities. That means, meetings like this to get you good folks to the point where you're thinking about disasters. Just had the hurricane update, starts June 1st, but on this island, with the features we have here, to us, we consider it year-round, that you got to be prepared. So, that's what we're kind of stressing. People are prepared, communities, you start from your family, neighbors, community, and then build out. That'll enable us to kind of withstand any disaster. The community, the island recover faster, get back economically, get the kids back in school, get people working. We're trying to stress that kind of stuff. Early on when I came on, we had, because it's all new administration, we brought everybody in, tried to get all the department heads the same game plan basically, and get them to the point where they understand that when disaster happens, it's law now basically that all government employees, once a declaration hits, they're all supposed to come to work. So they got to prepare their families themselves so that they can respond to work, and so forth. So that's what we're all about right now. And we've been getting tested by all these small incidents, high surf, sewage spills, earthquakes. My crew actually has been through a lot of it. So I'm kind of like the greenhorn on the crew, so I learned from them. Pretty fortunate that I got them. But anyway, we're here to serve you guys, and as the mayor said, communication. That's where I feel that we need to work on is getting the word out to the community. That's where we can help in these situations. And that means working with all the other departments. Harry says that with all the other county departments and the state feds, he was a pain in their okole, throughout his career, and that's how he got things done. And that's what I'm going to have to become with all these other agencies. I got to be aggressive to make sure they're giving me the information that I can get to you guys. So that's what I aim to do. Thanks.
Communities, and I know that is that the actual structure that you're working with? I understand that we have for some communities operations. Is that an actual model that you're using?
Well, actually, that's part of our tactics. The state might have part of that as their emergency management, but I'm not sure who it is, and that's just on our own.
So that's just the way that you're describing it, but it's
No.
Thank you, Talmadge. Does anybody else have any more questions for Talmadge before we go to the answers and questions? And I'm going to leave our Department of Health last. Gerald Kosaki, please come. He was like hoping I wasn't going to call him. But introduce yourself. He's the chair for LEPC and also the battalion chief.
Okay, thank you. I didn't plan on speaking tonight. But anyway, my name is Gerald Kosaki. I'm a battalion chief in the Hawaii Fire Department. I oversee what is called special operations, which entails rescue, hazmat response, and ocean safety. So we oversee all the beach lifeguards too. As part of my duties, I'm also the chair of the LEPC, which is the Local Emergency Planning Committee, and that's a subsidiary of the Hawaii State Emergency Response Commission that oversees the state. So each county has an LEPC, a Local Emergency Planning Committee, within their own jurisdiction. And this was a law that was enacted in 1986 as a result of several incidents that happened with, pretty bad hazardous material spills, and with the most recent one back there before the law was enacted with Bhopal, India. And there's the Exxon Valdez with a large oil spill. And because of that, they said, there's all these companies out there that has chemicals, but does anybody know about it? And so they enacted the law, which is the EPCRA law, which the mayor kind of touched upon, is the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act. And from that law, under that law, each county or each state is required to have a state emergency response commission, and each county or jurisdiction needs to have identified as a local emergency planning committees. And so that's, we meet once a quarter, and we have on the committee people from the Department of Health and people from the community, such as Terry. We have people from agencies like Civil Defense and police and other companies within the community also. I invited Terry to participate and become a member a few months ago after she contacted me and came to one of our meetings, and we talked about what she's doing and what she's actually doing for her community. And I found that to be so amazingly interested in that, because she's so passionate about protecting the community and having information given out, and looking for answers. And I think that's great. We don't always have all the answers, and I want for sure that don't have all the answers, but we always look to find answers or try to find what we can to help that. Other than that, we oversee all the beach lifeguards too. So like this morning I got a call from the captain, our lifeguard captain said, you know, Keaukaha has high levels of bacteria, but again, you know, it's probably something that is naturally occurring or from the water being at low tide for such a long period of time with not much flow in and out. And so, you know, the signs were up, but the county has the prerogative of either closing the beach or not. Department of Health really don't make a recommendation at that levels to close the beach. And so, you know, the beach was kept open, but, you know, as people come and they see the sign, I mean, not many people is in the water. But thanks, Neil. I mean, thank you guys for providing all that information. Anybody has any questions?
Like risk assessments for our community area, I'm assuming you guys have to do that as part of rapid response. So I would just like to know, like, how high the risk is for Keaukaha Community Association, especially with, or Keaukaha community, especially with all that stuff down there.
Yeah, like for some companies which are toxic release inventory companies, TRI companies, you can go on the EPA website and you can see all those companies in there. You can go on the county website. They have access to the Department of Health and their readings of if there's any warnings or any high levels of bacteria in certain beaches.
The companies in your community, and these are the types of risks that are posed by these companies being in, there's nothing like that then?
Well, see, the companies, there is this thing. So the companies that have any amount of chemicals that they store at the companies, if they reach a certain criteria, which is a reportable quantity criteria, and you can see that on the EPA list of lists, and you can see, and anyway, if companies have a certain amount of chemicals, then they'll be required to report that, and that report is called a Tier 2 report. And whenever companies submit a Tier 2 report, they submit it to the Hawaii State Emergency Response Commission, and each jurisdiction, you know, every company that has this amount of chemicals needs to submit the report. And with the report, they have to pay a fee of $100. So that $100 goes to the State Emergency Response Commission, who divides that money up based on the amount of companies to each individual jurisdiction and gives it to the LEPC. And that money is used to help us provide and promote EPCRA or adhere to EPCRA law. And we use it for training for the fire department, for emergency response personnel. We use it for equipment. We have purchased equipment, like the most recent was radiological meters for our hazmat team. We use it for air monitoring. But that's not a lot of money that we collect, but you know, whatever we can use, that's what we use it for. But I hope that, and if you, as a community, if you wanted to know how to get access to these companies and which companies, you know, are submitting Tier 2 reports, you can, and I can give Terry the contact information. I don't know if you have Sharon Leonidas. She comes to the meetings too. She's at the HERE office in the on Oahu, and you can request to have a list of all the Tier 2 companies, and that's public information.
Thank you.
How many companies do we have that are
Tier 2 companies? I believe it's approximately 170 now, I think, that we have here on the island.
So, another question. We're not understanding what Tier 1 is and what Tier 2 is. And maybe this is something that the Department of Health, Eric, can explain with you, alongside with you. Who designates the Tier 1 and a Tier 2? And what does it mean?
You know, I'm only familiar with the Tier 2 reports because that's what we deal with. Are you familiar with the Tier 1 reports?
What you're talking about is a Tier 1 and Tier 2, which is it's different from chemical.
Okay. Thank you. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Thank you very much.
You know, I want you to refer to your list. There's so many questions. One of the things that we have to find out is why did Puhi Bay, this is the reason we're here. We're interested in Puhi Bay and why our community has to bear the burden of everybody's sewage. We find out today we're bearing the burden of the whole entire island's sewage, which is something that we really are concerned about. So when finding out what kind of monitoring systems there are, we find that there are 2 monitoring systems for Puhi Bay. According to the Department of Health, Neil helped us understand, I went online and I found that there are at least 3 sites that Department of Health has designated here in Puhi Bay, 11, 28, 29, and 30. Now the flagpole is what site number, Neil? The flagpole is site 1129. And this is where our children go and swim, but this is where you know, the salt water doesn't really come in as much as the other area where the Ahuna's tent is, right? So what we were wondering is why, who tests these sites, how often, how frequent, and, you know, because we believe that if we are continuing to have the amount of reports from our families saying that they got MRSA and staff from after swimming in this area, we wanted to find out the source and why. So we found out that from the Department of Environmental Manager that they also do testing. So the question we had was, and to find out the process, first of all, what tier is, beach tier is Puhi Bay? And we found out that Puhi Bay is a tier 1. Am I correct? Designated tier 1 as a beach. Now, we don't even know what that means and who came up with that designation. You know what I mean? So, but I did read on site that one of the reasons that they came up with this is that it relies on the economics. I don't even want to say what that means. Economics, or whether they make bigger money, population. You know, these are designations of Puhi Bay that we found out that reasons why they might not be having readings. We found out that Department of Health does not do regular readings in Puhi Bay, and we were wondering why. And then we found out that Department of Environmental Management also does readings. But if we can have, William, please come here to this mic. And if we can have Neil come to this mic. John Peard also, can you please come and sit here, because these are all the questions that we don't understand. We're trying to wonder if we are actually being protected by the amount of readings and how frequent they are in Puhi Bay, because of the amount of spills and because of the fact that these pipes were cracked for a very, very long time. And and now that they're fatigued, they're old, it's probably even gonna get worse. So we asked Department of Environmental Management, does he do all the monitor readings in Puhi Bay? And your answer was?
No. The Department of Environmental Management, we measure our discharge, and we measure when the water leaves, the wastewater leaves our wastewater treatment system, or it is piped down to discharge. We have a standard that it has to meet at that point, including chlorine residue. That's in there. So to ensure that the water is disinfected. We have those numbers. We have monthly sampling, monthly testing that we need to do when we report to Department of Health. These are our NPDES discharge requirements, and these are the items that we have to test. The only other test is done at the end of the discharge pipe when you deal with dispersion. After the material comes out, you can measure at the edge of the plume until that comes out. You have standards that have to be met. There are diffusers that send the water out, so that water column where contact at that point. And those are the only measurements we take, unless we know that there has been a release found a leak pipe. Then, in consultation with Department of Health, we designate areas that are tested. Every area that is tested has a sign that we put up, and where you see the sign is where we took our samples. And we take these samples at 24 hours for the cultures to come back. Once those cultures are done, information is sent to Department of Determination that but that is the only sampling that DEM does, is our discharge sampling, and if we have a release.
So Neil and Aaron, what we were wondering is, we found that it's not a site that is often tested by Department of Health. Our families here want to know why.
Well, just historically, from when I got the information on where our tier sites were, where we were to be testing, I was told that that wasn't considered a tier 1 site. We were just, it was more of a tier 2 site, and then we were our tier 1s are basically our core sites, which are like spread out along the east, kind of give you like a broad spectrum of if there is any types of heavy dish. So we just throw in that Puhi site periodically. Every time we do throw it in, it comes out clean. There wasn't really any, almost like a need for it that regularly because of the readings always being clean. I just test the shoreline. I was under the impression that these guys test the shore. Yeah. So our test site is right by right around the flagpole, getting more toward the left. It kind of turns where all the kids swim. That's where I try to test. Majority of the people swim. Yeah, very clean. Yeah, we hardly have any high reading. Yes. So the tier 1s are like the high use speed. Yes. It is like the right rating just under, because there's like three tiers. The very high use tier 2s are like they have use, not maybe as high as of tier 1s, and the tier 3s are like rural beaches that hardly see any use at all. And every so often, the office goes and they look and they kind of evaluate the tiers to see if they want to change any beaches to upgrade or downgrade the tiers. But
William, how many miles out the pipe goes on the pipe out to the bay?
It's approximately between a mile and a mile and a half. I'm not sure what the exact distance is, but it's about a mile offshore.
Okay, my next question, if I heard you right, you're responsible for the outfall.
Yes, and everything between there, if there are any releases along that our discharge, that is our responsibility, yes.
Okay, my next question, do you know where the wave and the current go to bring those outfall to the bay, Puhi Bay?
Personally, no, but I'm certain that you're going to get movement in. It's going to be tidally referenced, but I can't answer that specifically.
I told that, I told you about the wave, I told about that. So, go check out. You need to go check the history when they will put the pipes from here go outfall. And I heard the mayor talk, and everybody say something. And I really like to know. And it's over 50 years. Have to be over 50 years over there. Because asking this question, the outfall, do you have a maintenance record previous, when it first started to present? You had some kind of maintenance record, how long, who was responsible to take care, which was sound like the county and the EPA, right?
There really is no maintenance that's done on an outfall at either solid or not. I can find information, done maintenance.
Can you please get, I'm concerned because I want to help. Because anything you put out, you should have a maintenance program. I don't care if it's a county who, because I like to know who will report to you where all those leaks are.
Yeah, those leaks came in when we did dye tests, and we did that because of concern that we had releases, and we did. And then we marked wherever we found those releases. That's the repairs that we've done.
Okay, so the dye test is from the outfall. You came all the way here, along the pipe, that 1.5 miles, all the way here. That's what I'm talking about. Can you go find previous years if they did dye test? That's what I'm saying, maintenance record.
I will check.
If you do, you have a maintenance record. Because I want to help, because I'm going to tell you why. But exactly Terry said, I'm on the same sheet of music. But those says you go fix all this thing now. How good are the workmanship to take care of the cementing, to care that? Because you need to know the way, you need to know the current. That's why I say, I'm going to tell you right now, you will give all of us here the answer. And the answer is going to be, when we have the high surf, when we have the current, it stirs up anything and it's spreading. And it's going to come to Puhi Bay. And what's saving, I really like to know about Bayfront. What's saving Bayfront is the brick wall. So really, when it hits the brick wall, it's going to come right in that Puhi Bay area. That's why the inspection with both groups working together is very important. And the important one, I would say, the Board of Health and you need to work together. That report is to be given every month because that's where I was born years ago. Grandparents' first home status, December 16, 1924. Now, I will put you on notice with everybody here, okay, all you folks. You can go tell me, Eric will say, he's part of that, okay, joking, and we look up. This is what I'm going to say. When December 16, 2024 comes, this area in Kalamaula will celebrate 100 years. And where we was born and raised is still there. And exactly what Terry said, she's about the last generation in there, and nobody can do diving. You'd be surprised what we had there going on. Patrick should know, all the rest of them who's out in this community, what Terry said is correct. And I've been telling that for years out there. And I just want to help. Now, you get the biggest problem because of the outfall. Everything falls out there. But as I asked you, you go find out the wave and the current is the problem for this bay. So now the waterfowl get a check, so it makes us safe to go inside and do that. But for fishing and all that, cannot. You'd be surprised what is out there. You go ask the divers who diving from here to King's Landing. You go ask them. It's terrible out there. So I know the report, I saw the map. So you're supposed to, every outfall or every place where you have this on your map, you should get one report what we asking, but that's correct. It goes downhill and we report. We catch everybody. Now if you're going to expand anymore and that's going to be the law, then we need to solve it. With the testing, it will help us. So tell us, don't go in the water. but we don't lease it anyway, we don't know. You know, so that's our fault too, but you gotta help us. Okay, thank you.
Try to throw it in at least once a month. Yeah. So, but like, since I guess the Oahu office a high priority because it comes out clean. Every so often, I'll some Terry, and I'll do every week. It comes out clean. So I haven't had a high reading over there, and then they'll say, go and look at other places, or like alternate other spots. Got it down in again, and periodically it comes out clean.
The reason why I ask is because many of the school children that come to Keaukaha School have gotten very sick. One of them was my grandma. And I found that many other children have been sick with high fever for about a week and a half. And my grandma had to take antibiotics just to take that bacteria out of her. Plus, and I found out that other children too had all these little sores coming out of them in the eyes, the nose, and everything because of that bacteria and whatever is happening at Hui Bay. And
what it was, or did it go to the doctor?
She's gone to the hospital, and they found that it was bacteria, but they never went to check, even though we told them to go down there and check, because that's where she swam the last, and in just a few days became very ill, and many other children have, and that's why I'm asking, how often do you check? And in fact, can you get that thing out of Keaukaha? Is that possible? To take that, whatever the thing is, that the pipes and things that's going, bringing all the sewage into Keaukaha, can it be taken out from here? I think we've gone through this, how many years? It's been horrible, and it's been not good for our community. Is there a possibility that this can be done?
There are a few things that have of a physical nature that cannot be taken care of. The issue is, what do we do instead? What do we do with everyone's sewage? Where do we treat it? How do we treat it? And that's something that we're looking at. That's one of the things that help the council, and Sue has been fantastic on there, listening and trying to help us. This is not something that we're going to be able to fix tomorrow or next
But can they look into this matter? Because we have grandchildren, and I don't want this to happen to them all their lives. It's going to be generations, and we don't want this for them. Yeah, I think you folks should look into this and to see what can be done, if it can be taken away or something, because we sure don't want it here.
I will tell you,
I don't know about everybody else, but I don't want it here.
I have one more question.
Where the pipe comes out.
Please.
Yes. So now that you guys are doing the repairs, which, by the way, thank you very much for responding to that and, putting the money in and doing the repairs, because it's been decades. So it's nice to see something get done. But my question is, how often are you guys going to be repeating the dye testing to just make sure that the repairs that you guys are making are holding, and also that no new releases are happening along the pipe?
That's a good question. That's not something that we normally do like monthly, but I can see us establishing a yearly test of that to ensure that everything is all right. And there's the fact that there's no requirement to do that from any of the regulatory agencies doesn't mean it's something that shouldn't be done. That's something that we can do. And what that would also do with the dye as it comes out the diffuser, you can then have some idea of what's happening to the waste stream from the end of the pipe and go. So that is also a response.
What is the volume of discharges that you place out into the bay, and given the age of the infrastructure, does it really do that?
Well, actually, design capacity for that facility is about 5 million gallons a day. And we average somewhere in the 2.8 to 3 million gallons a day. So the plant is really overstressed. It's understressed. Designed for a month.
Okay, one more question, and then I'm going to get to the point.
My question is for, sorry, I forgot your name, brother. What is it? Neil. Sorry, Neil. You guys do when you guys do your testing, you guys do them once a month, and you're testing for those 2 types of bacteria? Why specifically only those 2? I mean, I'm sure there's like thousands and millions of bacteria. Why specifically those 2? Why not others?
Okay, so when we do our testing, we're just basically looking for fecal bacteria. So the 2 bacteria that we test for are fecal bacteria indicators. So all these years we've been testing those 2 bacteria because it seems that if they're both high, then there's a real good chance that there's in the water. So no, we're just looking for fecal. We're just looking for bacteria. So like that's the thing. It's like our tests. We can say that there isn't, most likely there is fecal bacteria in the water, but there may be other bacteria which get you sick. Yeah, like like how in the grandkids. So it's like just because our test is saying there's no fecal, that doesn't mean that there isn't other bacteria out there. So no matter what, it's always good to, like, after you go swimming and stuff, to like rinse off real good, shower up. If you have any cuts, clean cuts out good. Yeah. We're just looking for sewage. Yeah, sewage origin. Yes. MRSA is totally different. MRSA is a type of staph. It's definitely in the water. It's everywhere. It's everywhere in the environment. And that's a bad one. So like that's why we say no matter what, if you ever get a cut or anything, to make sure to wash it and to clean it really well and take care of it. Bacterial, Kca or products like that.
Okay, I can't help myself. We found that this sewage pipe has been out here over 50 years. I'm sorry. It was there when I was a youngster, and it's still here. And we're reiterating the same kind of questions. Number 1, Oahu doesn't know what we're going through. They're making the decisions on the level of importance of reading and monitoring. That needs to change. We need to allow some changes in more frequent testing, other testings. I mean, I'm sorry, if you're only looking for fecal matter and every time that you're reading and that's saying that it's clean right next to the outfall, it doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't click. I mean, it doesn't make sense to a lot of the people because it's right next to the outfall. We're going to be, and we're actually being told tonight that every sewage is going to be coming out into our bay. That does not sound right to me. We are bearing the burden from Hilo, but if you look at the pipes, we have also Papaiko, am I correct? It has its own discharge, but where does it all go? It's all on the east side and it comes into our bay. We want answers, and I know, Aaron, you're going to have to ask this question. Why isn't Department of Health looking for other bacteria? Right now, the only bacteria Department of Health is looking for is what goes out with fecal matter. We want to make changes. We want other bacteria readings to be regular. We want to be able to have more frequent readings for our people. Neil told me that it is not a frequent reading. I have the readings. I go on the line and I have the readings printed out. And it saddens me to know the truth that the last reading you've done was really actually years ago. Until our community started to ask you for more frequent readings because you weren't regularly reading in Puhi Bay. That to me is just not right. And if your readings go to Oahu, does it get set into a file cabinet? I mean, who does the checks and balances? And Aaron, I want this question answered. From Mr. Kucharski, it goes straight to Oahu. Who reads them? And who contacts anyone if there's a spike in the readings? How often does it get given? How often, what is done? Because there's such big, huge holes in the readings. Huge. I mean, we hear it right now. There's such a big disconnect, and I'm really disappointed because no one can answer this question for us. Why are, these readings not given to us? If anything, where does it go?
Maybe Neil can answer the questions regarding the read. But I'll answer is about the bacteria analysis for. I was mentioning to Neil that my graduate studies was back in the specializing in water quality. At that time, we're basically looking at types of bacteria that was on standard methods, with methods that was in the United States, test for polluted water. Clostridium, Enterococci, strep, fecal strep. Our studies are showing the fecal strep did not work in tropical waters because picking up too much other types of contamination. Basically, for how many? 40 years, that's basically what we have. I was working with water resources research graduate student at the University of Manoa. And I know Dr. Fujioka has always been looking for other indicator bacteria because it has to be relatively stable and cannot reproduce. So the pickup numbers is actual number. Cannot be basically found in soil or some the stuff that we have right now. Enterococci levels that we like Keaukaha. High levels, right? Considered elevated levels. Clostridium, which cannot use by the public federal requirement. So there was a big of only the difficult analysis. I know the science is trying to look at it. We haven't found.
Well, don't you think that this is a disaster issue? I mean, because we've had multiple spills. Am I correct? Am I wrong? We have had multiple spills in Kilo simultaneously. And then we have one more on the other side. But two more on the other side. So what I'm saying is, right now we're trying to find out what the process is and how can we protect our families. We need to find a source of why our families are sick. And because we got multiple sicknesses after swimming at the we were told from one of the students that staff in MRSA thrives in cold, fresh water, which is pretty much our whole coastline. They do not thrive in salt water. However, we have children that are sick, and that they come back with sicknesses, staph, MRSA, and they leave. So, what we want today is to find out from Mr. Kucharski, these readings go to Department of Health on Oahu. Who do we contact to make sure that these readings are actually being read and they're actually being looked at, and who does that?
They go into a database and the EPA regulates it.
My son was at the University of Hawaii. When they together, you know. I think maybe.
Yeah. That I'm not sure if the UH is doing it right now, but that's what we're trying to do. But just with me being the only one on the island right now, that makes it, that's one of the hard parts of it. Yeah, 'cause, yeah, I know, like how am I supposed to be the only guy, yeah? Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yes.
Well, no, there's,
No,
there,
the other position, I believe, was has been relocated or had been.
actually, it actually was open like last month, but it's federally funded. So there's only funding for 1 year, and after that, then it's up to the EPA, and they're getting a 1/3. Yeah, they're getting 1/3 budget cut. So there it went. So I was like, you know, yeah, right now we're trying, but it doesn't look good.
At least get it tested and let our people know so that we know whether that our kids can swim and when not to. Anything you can find to help better our situation, that would be greatly appreciated.
The best thing I could tell you is to just make sure you rinse off and shower after. That's the best. Yeah.
Yeah, what I would like to add even more to that is that you have any type of open cuts, etc. Do not go into the ocean. There are other things in the ocean that cause infection.
John, please go.
As kids never go into the water. Kids always get cuts in their
Hi, I'm John Beard. I work in the hazard evaluation section, not in the clean water branch, but no one had a chance to mention this that I think gets to the heart of Terry's suggestion here, and I want to make a suggestion for you all. Right now, they're holding public hearings, Department of Health, on the Hawaii Beach Monitoring Program. They've got a proposal out dated May 22nd. They had a public hearing the other night in Hilo. 2 days ago, a couple people showed up, but it gets to all the questions you're asking. It talks about the tiers of the beach, selects them, it talks about what the process, how we're going to respond to this.
Is the comment period over?
No, through July 5th. So you guys can...
Can we get that? I'd like to get that.
You can ask all your questions. Alec Wong is the Clean Water Branch.
Okay.
Call him up and get some dialogue going with him.
A meeting here.
Yeah, perhaps
Can it be here for our community?
Well, ask Alex.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Sure.
I want to see what's their schedule to have a public hearing.
That's the thing. There was a big meeting the other day.
Yeah, that's what you're just saying. So you had that hearing, that's what I mean. You know, we don't know. Obviously we have a lot of concerns about the water quality on the shore, but nobody seems to believe that here's a community that should be involved in what happens with the water quality.
I would say when Alex hears that you guys weren't informed of it and
Absolutely.
concerns, he would want to come.
Yeah, absolutely.
Accommodation for that hearing.
Yeah. That's why I'm asking if the comment periods are over, because other than that, we can flood them with comments, but it doesn't make any sense if they're not here.
At the very least, you can comment by July 5th, so you can...
Yeah, I'd like to know, the address or something, maybe I can get your card or
You
that.
can probably do more by calling Alex and saying, we would like to...
I didn't catch Alex's last name.
What is Alex's last name?
Wong.
Oh, okay, guys, some.
They wanted the comments in writing, so they can go and look at them all and get them all together.
The proposal is posted on the website, so you can...
Oh, okay, I can get that. I can get the link off of the website from the... Okay.
Absolutely. So I think that would definitely be a way to address all your questions and then set up the process and work on it. The goal of the Clean Water Branch is to prevent illnesses of people, just what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's the reason they're in existence. So they need to be listening to you
That's, well,
That's what they're trying to do, so I can't see why they wouldn't want to meet with you and answer your questions, explain to you that